Some people have asked me if I'm safe from the fires that are raging in California. Yes, in a word, yes, I am safe. And the reason why is because of where I live. The fires are burning in Sonoma County wine region, what we would call wine region. That's Northern California. It's north of San Francisco. I live about 300 miles south of San Francisco. I live in an area that's called the South Coast. It's kind of a weird area of California. Most of California's coast faces west into the Pacific Ocean. If you look at California's coast, it comes down San Francisco, Big Sur, down towards Santa Maria. Then it curves inward and it goes east-west. That's where I live. Then it goes back down again, Ventura, Thousand Oaks, Los Angeles, San Diego, down to the Mexican border. I live in the area that goes east-west. They call it the South Coast because it faces south. That's where I live. So I'm quite a distance, 400 or 500 miles from those fires up in Northern California. Not that we don't have fires down here. Since I moved here in 1975, I've been through several. Some are more of a spectacle to look at. Some are quite dangerous. In fact, there was one that was going through a Painted Cave Fire, I think it was called, a Painted Cave Fire. It went through parts of Santa Barbara. It's kind of amusing because I had a friend who was living up in that area, close to the area. He was, I shouldn't say amusing, well it was, let me explain. He was evacuated. His home was never in any danger, it turns out. But as a precaution, he evacuated. He came to my place. And of all things, we watched the Disney cartoon Bambi. And if you've seen the cartoon, it ends with that horrific forest fire at the end, toward the end of the movie. Kind of an amusing evening for us in a way, but he knew he was safe, and he didn't even have to sleep a night at my place. The evacuation order was lifted later in the evening, and he was able to go home. So some are troublesome. We had one just north here. There are mountains north of where I live, Santa Ynez Mountains. There was one many years ago called the Gap Fire. That was a problematic one because the fire burned under the high voltage transmission lines, and our electricity would go out, sometimes for a few minutes, sometimes for a few hours, sometimes all night long. And that's why I keep these. If I can pick these up carefully. These are my oil lamps. And what I did today was I lit them and let them burn for a few minutes, because what happens after a while, if you don't use them, the oil does evaporate very, very slowly at the end of the wick, and a wax builds up on it. And it can be difficult to light. It will light, but it just takes longer. If you light them and let them burn for a minute or two, that burns off that wax. And then if you need to light it within a day or two, whatever, it'll light very quickly. I did that because in the next couple of days, see, today is Thursday, tomorrow through Sunday, parts of Sunday, they're expecting some very dry area. It's going to be a red flag time period, red flag fire period, basically, warning people of the danger of fires. The humidity, like the humidity today, got down to about 33%. Not bad at all. That's comfortable. They're expecting the humidity to get down to the teens, possibly single digits. That's when the arsonists come out. And that's where a lot of these fires come from. We had one, I can show you some pictures of some of the fires. We had one just recently, the Whittier fire, just a little bit to the west. And they named that Whittier because it started at a campground. I never found out whether it was a campfire that went astray or whether it was people lighting fireworks or something, or whether it was actually arson. We never got the final word on that. That didn't affect us so much. The skies were cloudy, hazy, kind of grayish brown. Sunsets were very orange, and sometimes in the morning we would wake up and find a lot of ash. on our cars. The ash fall would come down. That wasn't a bad fire. There was the Sherpa fire before that, I think, in a canyon a little bit further to the west. That wasn't a big problem. Yes, we had ash and smoke, but it was a little bit even further away. Jesusita fire was to the east. I got pictures of that. That was way too far away to affect us. And what else was there? The Ray fire. That was another fire that was up there in the mountains. Unless it burns under the high voltage transmission lines, I'm not going to be affected by the fire. Not that I'm 100% safe. If you saw the pictures of the fires in Northern California, whole neighborhoods are wiped out. I'm surrounded by neighborhoods. In a serious firestorm situation, fire could blow through these neighborhoods and, yes, eventually, I suppose, reach where I live. But where they start is a long ways away, and there just isn't a lot of likelihood that they're going to come down here unless there's ideal fire conditions. And that's what we're worried about for the next couple of days, because we're expecting what are called Santa Ana winds. They're very dry winds that blow over the desert into Southern California. Warm winds. Sometimes it's 80, 90 degrees at night just because of those Santa Ana winds. And if they're blowing enough, 60, 70 miles an hour sometimes, they can really blow a fire through. And that was the situation with the Painted Cave fire. It burned quite a ways down into the city. It was pretty severe. I believe it was the Jesusita fire also burned a lot of the area north of the city, up in the mountains, and people in the city were concerned. There were areas along the city that had to be evacuated. Unless the winds blow that hard, there's not a lot of possibility that where I live that we're going to be in any danger. And right now they're expecting wind gusts up to 30 miles per hour. That's not severe. It's enough that could cause problems if some firebug gets out there for his jollies or her jollies and lights a fire. But the other thing is, there have been so many fires north of here, up in the mountains, that there just isn't a lot of old fuel left up there. A lot of it's been burned out. And in a lot of cases, they'll let some fires burn in uninhabited areas just to get rid of the old fuel to make it safer later. I doubt we're going to see any serious fires here for the next 15, 20 years, simply because it's already been burned out. Further to the west, further to the east, those areas could be compromised by serious fires, but I just don't see it happening here. So yes, I'm safe. I'm not in any danger. I'm somewhat prepared just in case the electricity should go out. I have my oil lamps ready to light, and it's just a matter of hoping that nothing will happen, hoping for the best. So thanks for your concern. I appreciate that you're concerned. Some of you know I live in California, but where I live, I'm in a pretty safe area. It's rare that we're affected by fires directly. It's mostly loss of electricity and finding ash on our cars in the morning. So thanks for your interest.